Hi, Cori.
Hey Angela, how you doing?
Man, how much time do you have?
45 minutes.
Yes. So, welcome, listeners. Today, we are your guests and your hosts at the same time. And while the first episode, the first solo episode in season one was like the conclusion of an experience, what we had, all the brilliant conversations that we had with our guests, and the best highlights of those conversations, today is a little different. And today is really what is going on in the world and in the world of Angela and Cori. Just to give you a little bit of context, we are about now 30 minutes into the meeting that we had on the calendar to record this solo episode. We had an agenda and we knew what we were going to do. And then, in light of everything else that is going on in the world around us, that is really impossible to ignore. And we asked ourselves, how do we best use this platform and how do we best relate to leaders, the teams that are around us, the people that we work with every day, and do what we know maybe can help. I'm telling you this because it gives an example of many of you that have your project plans, your deadlines, and then are pulled in so many different ways or are distracted emotionally with things going on, and it's all real, and it's all things that we deal with every day. And so what do we do? So this conversation today will focus on we experience, what we see in the workplace around us, and then we'll conclude with and now what? What do we do comes Monday morning? What are some things that are in my power, in my control, that I can try that maybe will help me and will help my team? So that's the agenda for today, the new revised agenda for today.
Sounds good. And I know when we are at work and we are on teams, we're leading teams, we have things to get done, deadlines to meet, like you said. And a lot of times when we meet on Monday morning, we start the meeting and everyone just jumps in with business as usual. So maybe we can start there to talk about how do we remind ourselves that we're human first and then employees second. I
Yeah.
think that sometimes in times of crisis in the world or things that are going on, or even within the company, if there's a big layoff or some things going on that's impacting sort of the emotional well-being of everyone, the collective,
Yes.
where it's not addressed. I know many times I've been in organizations where the elephant in the room of like the context of what's going on around us
Yeah.
is ignored.
Yeah. I think the first place to start is there is always an elephant in the room. There is always. Because we are different people with different experiences and there's stuff going on that we don't know about. So there's always, whatever size that elephant is, there's always one. And then even more so these days with everything that is going on. And a way to acknowledge the person that comes before the role, that comes before the teammate, is to how are you arriving? And a lot of times people we only have half hour, we can't waste much time. And so, well, there's a way to acknowledge the how are we arriving without taking the whole half hour. And after saying that, please know that I've been in meetings where times were the times that we were living and so charged that we did take the whole half hour. So those situations can happen, but it doesn't have to be the norm. And so you can give a structure there and say, take 1 minute, take 2 minutes but what is today in this moment at this point in time that is in the back of your mind or front and center in your mind that can alter the way that you show up in this meeting. And sometimes are given facts because today you just open the news and you know what's affecting people, but sometimes you don't because they have their personal life. And so with the confidentiality and the respect of how what this person wants to share, they can say something is going on in my life, but I'm not ready or I'm not willing to share, and that's okay. And nothing else to be added, and you go to the next person. What that does, and this is by experience, is makes you feel, first of all, I do have a team, not just a group of people that shows up because we need to talk about this project. And if they know that I may not be 100%, that today there's something going on that is distracting me, if I am quiet or if I say something that is not typically my style, I can get the understanding that I need right now. And that makes the team. How about you, Cori?
Yeah. And I would say the underlying element there is trust. So if you are the leader and you are bringing up or posing the question, how are you all coming in? How are you all arriving today? That leader has built a certain amount of trust with the team, or they have with each other, in order to ask that and for everyone to answer in a way that they're not going to be shamed or threatened or feel awkward. So
yeah.
How do you know if you're the leader and maybe you have never asked that question before of your team? Maybe you're feeling a bit nervous. Like, how do you know what to expect?
You're open to listen in. That's all you can do. The biggest gift is the gift of listening and understanding and be present to whatever shows up. Again, doesn't have to be heavy, or it could be in a world of rainbow. What color are you today? And everybody knows, and nothing else needs to be added. If I'm a yellow, I'm a yellow. If I am a blue, right? You can use those kind of common sense understanding
that's good.
of what kind of color do I show up today, right? And because we always have to be respectful of what this person wants to share and how much they want you to know, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. I'm a deep blue. Okay, that's it.
I like that because like they're short. People can choose from an existing palette of good to upset, and it can be a rainbow. I've seen also where it's like, what did we have with the rubber ducks?
The rubber ducks.
Yeah.
What the duck are you today?
But yeah. So choose the duck with the smiley face and the big hair, or the one that's sort of in the raincoat.
Exactly.
So,
and it creates, the jealous people together. There is nothing, and this is personal. I tend to be very bold sometimes in expressing my own experiences. So I know that is not the same for everyone, but in my experience, there's nothing worse for me than coming to a team meeting and the leader just goes straight to the business without acknowledging anything else, or, kind of realizing, how are you guys today? And lead by example with saying, here's how I'm arriving. And yet, here's how I choose to be today.
Yeah.
You mentioned trust there. Trust is part of this conversation today.
Yep. It's fundamental.
Yes.
I hate to have to say it, but sometimes it's not the case with certain organizations I know that you've worked with, or it was just weak. Maybe it wasn't completely absent, but it was just weak.
Yeah, there is a range, right, of how you feel about trust. Shall we go into what we have discovered about teams and trust lately?
Let's go for it.
All right. So, here is a new study that was done by one of the companies that is part of an AI consortium. Big companies like Intel, IBM, Cisco are part of this consortium. I think it was established a couple of years ago, and they come out every year with reports on the fast pace innovation of this technology and the impact and the workforce, the workplace, culture, all of it. And one of the studies came out in the past couple of weeks that shows, it's called the efficiency paradox. Cori and I, every time we hear about paradoxes, because that's where we thrive, in those ambiguities. Those liminal places where it's neither black or white, but they're all stand. And how do we navigate both? The efficiency paradox showed that while we see, and I'm sure that's your experience in the workplace, individuals at all levels trying to integrate, adopt, work more and more with AI as the new technology and AI tools. So while we see that more and more, which is great, good news, the collateral, the side effect of that is that team trust is eroding. And the assumption, I call it assumption at this level, I wouldn't, at this stage, I wouldn't call that a hypothesis, yes, but the assumption was made that from the data, AI is not breaking the trust. That's not what's happening. But AI is stress testing that trust among teammates. And so I wanted to bring this as a conversation with you, Cori, because teams and team building is our passion and our work. And I wanted to understand what are those levers that may be at play in this situation where you see individuals doing great work at times and showing new projects or new way of doing projects, and yet the team is not as receptive of those progresses. What do you think is happening there?
Yeah, well, and it's funny because I've talked with several clients who are, like everyone else, implementing AI. There are even mandates for using AI in your daily work, right? That's nothing new. But one of the themes that keeps coming up there is that there appear to be uneven skill sets, teammate to teammate. So for me, that's interesting because one of the leaders that I work with, she said she's got some people on her team who are sort of gung-ho. They've already been using it before they were told to, so they have some skill. There are some team members who are terrified, who don't want to use it at all. They've got moral principles on it. And then she's got yet another set of people who are willing to do it, but they want training and they want the certification to show that they've been trained, which is odd. But, it's real life, right?
Yeah.
People have their reasons for doing things. Some people want to be motivated, but the bottom line is that it is being rolled out unevenly. And the symptom of that is you've got that team trust is broken, like you said. You're sort of got some people that are feeling left behind, and then you've got the people that are far ahead looking back going, I'm just so frustrated with these other people. I can't collaborate with them because they're not at the level I am with this tool. And I don't know, what's your experience there? Because that's what I'm hearing from my side.
Yeah, it's exposing those dynamics that, guess what, were there all along. The person that jumps on the new technology, the new tool, and the person that waits and maybe yes, maybe no, and then there's the people that are completely lagging behind and they need an extra push, right? So that is not new.
And also what is not new is that the managers don't know how to effectively deal with it. So they're pulling in their same old tricks where they're maybe pitting employees against one another to sort of do a contest of who can get there fastest, or I don't know. There can be some non-productive ways, I think, that managers maybe they just from lack of knowledge of how to
Motivate.
get their team motivate as a collective versus each individual. I think managers are starting to do this individually. Maybe they're saying in meetings, we need to all do this, but there's not a
strategy. There's not a plan.
Yeah.
It's not even a strategy. There's not an execution plan that is clear and that can be adopted across different teams, because it's so personalized, even within the same team, by the different approach that people take to learning. I think what is different, and that's what I am experiencing, is that you cannot ignore it. You cannot call yourself out and say, you know what? Yeah, no, thank you very much, but I'm not gonna learn AI, unfortunately, because while it's not my case, but while I have not seen directly the impact on jobs because of AI, I have not seen that. But what I have seen is that people that know how to use AI and are learning AI have a better job security by far than anybody else. The saying that we've heard over and over and over again, you may not lose your job to AI, maybe, but someone that does use AI will get your job, right? So yes, I've seen that happening. Okay, so but going back to, but then what do you do? What do you do when you have a team and you're challenged by this? I think the first thing that this technology, the impact of AI, is the velocity, the speed with which you can do things. Now, like Yadin said in our conversation with him, the fact that you have now 15 versions of the same deck, does that mean created by AI? Is that a good thing? Well, now you have 15 decks to review because you want to make sure about the integrity of the content. So debatable, okay? Mm-hmm. But that's the reality. That's how fast now productivity can go. And one thing that needs to be there for the team that I've seen helps is transparency of how I'm doing things, which creates also a natural way of learning from others. And so my experience has been, here's the new tool, could be a new LLM and a new type of agent built on LLMs. But here's the new tool. Let's spend the next 2 weeks trying to integrate it and then report back the success, the lack of success, progresses made, dead ends achieved, and share it all. And share it all openly with everyone else. So that level of transparency has helped create a team intelligence that is more open and favorable in adopting these new technologies.
Okay, so I hear you saying that maybe not looking at it from the goal is from the technology standpoint. It's how do we create the team intelligence, or that's the end goal is the team intelligence.
And just to add there, because listeners may not be consultants, they're not coaches like us. So if you're listening and you think about what is the team intelligence, in a very simple way, I can explain that is when you bring people together, whether on Zoom or in the same room, there is a natural dynamics that is created that makes the team itself. We call it intelligence, but is a reality. Is the reality of people talking about a subject, expressing opinion, and communicating with each other. That's what we mean about team intelligence.
Yeah. So some of the behaviors and norms, and I feel like it's trust, it's respect, it's sure the processes are in the background, but it's the vibe of the team and how you get things done together.
I like that. The vibe. Yes. Yeah. That's another great description. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in that report they were talking also about getting to a point where you become a synchronized collective. So how would you lay that next to team intelligence?
It is. It makes the collective. Another definition that comes to mind for me is there is coherence and like there is a harmony in the team. And a lot of times people think that you can't get there if in this world that changes so quickly or the level of uncertainty that we live with. But that is not the case, because we can be together and invested in facing this situation in the highest level of uncertainty, but we're very clear in how everyone contributes and how this team contributes to the goal of the broader team or the broader company or organization. So those dynamics are there, that energy is there, and that coherence makes it possible for the team to act as a unit. And that's ultimately where the strength is in this every individually, right? Peter Hawkins always used to say, I'll never forget, is together we're stronger than each one individually. And that is the definition of a team. We can only achieve what we're trying to achieve if we work together. Everybody on his own term and his own pace, but together as a team.
Yeah. And that's the team unit, right? One leader, the 5, 6, 10 people around them.
Yeah. In the spirit of using AI for the work that we do, of course, we kind of walk the talk. Cori and I use those tools every day for brainstorming, from learning, for new ideas, new insights on situations. And I have here something that came from one of those conversations with AI in the specific of the misalignment that this technology can create and the effect that we started with is stress testing the trust of the team, of the trust of teammates. And so that's what we started with this conversation. And then what do we do about it? We talked about normalizing discomfort and, not feeling up to the task, not feeling that you're moving fast enough and all of that. We mentioned that. One insight that came was convert complaints into empowered requests. A lot of times, we hear people are frustrated, and so they may not have the best or most empathetic way of expressing what's going on, and it comes out as a complaint, as a criticism or something around those lines. And so when these conversations are going on, first of all, great. If they have the psychological safety that they need to even express these frustrations, you have a great team, because a lot of times those are the things that are not expressed because they don't feel that they can be that vulnerable. So you have a great starting point. And so how do you reframe those things so that we can learn from these frustrations? You know how many times I hear, I thought it was going so well, and I was on, I don't know, Claude, Gemini, and then 2 hours later got lost. I reached a dead end. I didn't even know where I was started from. These frustrations are daily in people that are working or trying to adapt the old way of working in a new way of technology. And so how do we make those learning moments? Acknowledge the frustration. You're not the only one. You're expressing something that I'm sure your teammates have at some point experienced. And you transform that, you reframe that. And here's what I learned, and here's what I would do differently next time. These are the moments that build the team, regardless of the disruption that is happening. That's one thing that came to mind.
All right. So in the context of disruptors, we've just been talking about AI and the characteristics of teams that are using and some of the challenges there and what they can do, the solutions. But also this season, we've brought in other disruptors, people talking about dysfunctional, toxic organizations, org structures that are maybe outdated, different generations in the workplace and communication styles there. This impacts certainly the core team, but what about the greater organizations? What are you seeing in terms of opportunities to make an impact, starting with one team, make an impact with other organizations?
Yeah. In our systemic view, like Cori, the way that we see systems is a ripple effect. You remember Chris Hutchinson in season 1 talking about the ripple of leadership is your immediate team, and then there's the wider team. It could be an organization, right, around you, and then there's a set of organizations that make the company. So those structures were not designed for the times that we live in. And it goes beyond the technology, right? The globalization of business, the remote hybrid way of working, all of it. So all those fun topics that we focused season 2 of this podcast on. So that is just a fact. And recently I was in a strategy summit organized by HBR, and a couple of those speakers were pretty insightful, if I may say, and especially one. There's this couple, Amazon employees, that wrote a book called The Octopus Organization. And I loved, me, Cori, I love nature. And so anything that in our life or in our way of working that takes something in nature as a metaphor, I love it. And these authors gave just the highlights of why they see the organizations of today not adapt to move as quickly and manage change, orchestrate change the way that they need to. And like the octopus, some of the characteristics of this organization that they envision, that they're helping other organizations put into place, is one, the adaptability. The octopus changes color, changes texture, depending on the environment that it's in, and especially if that environment is threatening their safety, their life. So that's one key aspect of the way to adapt to those disruptions that we see. The other being, the octopus has 2/3 of their neurons, of their brain cell power, in the arms, in the 8 arms. There is no skeleton. So imagine an organization, right? The organizations are the arms. There's sales, there's marketing, there's product development, there's legal, and so on. So those are the parallelism that we can make, where these organizations have their own intelligence and they can move independently. That's the strength of the octopus, that can move these arms independently to go where the octopus need to go. And another aspect of these organization, the Octopus Organization, is the curiosity, which for me is, we talked with guests like Greg Petroff of these design organization and how technology is changing the way that designers work with developers and vice versa. So imagine if a goal, a value of these organizations is that creativity of learning a little, trying a little, and then learning a lot. This is the iteration. It's not just trying and learning. You start very, very small. In this organization, you create new workflows or you adapt old workflows that were not designed for the pace of the technology. And then you learn from that, and then you keep going and you do better. So these are these are the things that need to be in place, and the ways that we work with these organizations so that they can create the teams and the organizations that they need today to sustain the pace of the change of tomorrow. I know that there was a lot there.
Yeah, I heard that these
Yes.
arms or these departments need to have enough agency to be able to move and help, but they also need to be in synchronization. So they need to know
Yes.
what the purpose is.
Yes.
They're all connected to the top,
Yes.
but if
They're
they
all
can't
connected.
sense what the other or know for a fact what the ultimate goal is and what their arm's job is,
Right.
then the octopus isn't going to get very far in the ocean. If
Right.
they just be spinning in a circle.
Exactly. And without spinning in a circle, which in the world of work is burning resources.
It's still, if things are spinning.
Yeah. So focus on the rippling, not the spinning.
Yeah.
To different energy patterns.
Mm-hmm. How do you do that? How do you get from a spin to a ripple? If the octopus's arms are spinning and not getting to the goal, or they're getting there, but it's very messy, that really indicates that there's some unresolved friction. Right. Yeah. And it's the friction within a team, within departments.
Yes.
That doesn't ever seem to get resolved because it's normalized as, oh, this is politics at work. This is the culture here. We challenge each other, or whatever the cultural norm is.
Right.
The good, the light. How do you extend the light out to other teams?
Yeah, and what is in the power of that one specific team or that one organization? That's how you build those dynamics that we were talking about earlier. They have their own intelligence, and at the same time, they contribute to the complexity and the overall intelligence of the company or the wider organization. So those patterns are being challenged right now. And some of those will survive, and some of those patterns need to change, because patterns create habits. So that's what these companies are grappling with. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in it.
Yeah. And then, like you said, the adaptation to a new pattern sometimes is scary. And often maybe there isn't training for that relational pattern that you can find within your team development group. Like, what do leaders do?
It's kind of like, what do you do when in a relationship, in a couple, you don't get along, but what's at stake is important. The family, the children, whatever. It's not different at work. I don't understand why, not all couples, but most couples will seek help by a professional. They'll go to therapy or a couples coach, someone that can help them navigate those turbulence. And in the workplace, we don't. That I don't understand. It's nothing different. There's still relationships built by humans with other humans. And those same dysfunctions, those same dynamics apply, even if we are at work and not at home, right? Yeah. So getting help is one.
Right. You just reminded me, I saw a post on LinkedIn the other day where someone was talking about leadership offsites, that they're the corporate equivalent of a couple's holiday to save the marriage. She said, nice location, good food, deep conversations, but back home on Monday, same argument about who loads the dishwasher. Tell me I'm wrong. It's like,
I love that. Okay, so shall we take that as, but comes Monday, what do we do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote back actually. I said, like couples therapy, when leaders are taken out of their working environment, they're not focused on the relational and systemic friction that is likely waiting for them back at the office. Sites typically don't have the structure for creating sustainable change. That kind of long-term shift happens when teams can be coached in the flow of their real day-to-day challenges so that the new habits of collaboration can happen
Yeah,
and get embedded. Yeah.
they're important. They're important. Better than anything else, they still help. They're not the solution
Yeah.
to the entire problem.
You're right.
But they can open a conversation, they can open a door. And especially if we're not just there to eat and drink together, we're there with a little bit more intentionality of naming what is going on. And then being in a different context and hoping that we may get a different perspective on that original issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And actually following up and taking what came out of that offsite, those intentions, that charter or whatever you're creating, whatever that purpose was for that offsite, and then bringing it in to the day to day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you actually have to have someone maybe other than the manager who's helping the team be accountable for that or to embed that learning.
Yeah. So here's an agenda. This is what we can share with our leaders listening, an agenda. If you are thinking or you have a plan for an offsite, how to go into that experience, make time for those conversations, create a container, just start with thinking not everybody can be there and be ready to have those conversations. So bring them to use the terms that we use, a trust level or psychological level, open to have the candid conversations. And there's ways to do that. We can help you with that. And then name what is going on. You can do it anonymously. A great trick that we use with our teams, a jar with the, what's on my mind and what I think is getting in the way of my work, or, write it anonymously, put it there, and then go one by one and have the team acknowledge it, address it, and what is changing. Another great thing to have on the agenda for that offsite is decision rights, a decision flow of who does what. And once they're committed, then what happens? So yeah, those are all ways that you can give better tools, and they go back on Monday morning and now they have these new tools. Are they going to use these new tools all the time? Probably not. Just know that things eventually, if there's not enough intention, slip the way that they used to. But now you have a structure in place where you can refer back and bring them back to consciousness. And it's like, here's what we decided, right? And then move them from there.
Right. Right. And it's all about the conscious, intentional ways of being as a team. The leader, everyone needs to be committed to making this shift. They don't want to go back potentially to how it was. Why would you take the effort to try to have this transformative type of offsite if you weren't committed to showing up differently as a team?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's ownership.
So we talked about many things here.
So comes Monday morning, which will always come. There's 3 things that I would like for the listeners to consider. We talked about building trust and how important, even more so than ever right now, with those dynamics of who's using AI, who's not, and the erosion of trust that may happen in these circumstances. So more than ever is important as a leader to know how to keep the trust within that team and build that trust. So one way is, like we said, checking in. These are people, they have personal lives, they have dynamics happening that you may not necessarily be aware of. So given an opportunity to express or not, and to share it with the team, build to build more vulnerability and more trust as a consequence of that. The other one is focus on the outcomes, focus on the value that the team creates, and not the hierarchy or, who's done what forever and things like that. Those established patterns that may not be helping you anymore. And what else?
I think maybe just recognizing that maybe you need to take some time. Go slow to go fast. Just recognizing the wheels are a little wobbly. Things have shifted in our organization, outside the organization. Like, just take some time to set a meeting, get everyone together and refocus. Because maybe that's all that you need to do, is just check in with everyone. Just check in on the purpose, check in on your value, check in on your operating system. Like, what's the health of it, right? So a lot of our guests, including Karen Duggan, she said, go slow to go fast. I think a number of our guests have said that. But every Monday, even if it's something small, if it's a single check-in, like you were saying, with what's going on, or we need a half day. We need to stop and have a half day just to assess.
And it could be the team meeting. It could be in your one-on-one.
So, Angela, we've covered a lot of different topics, from the headlines in the news around what's going on in the world, disruptions, to talking about how do you help your team build trust. We've gone over a lot. So I really appreciate all of your wisdom. I know our audience
and
does.
Yours. Thank you.
We are here to help, and
you're not alone.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
No.
Yes, we're all in this together.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Bye.